It's fall season, which means MG catches a cold but refuses to stop the video grind. Hooray! Well, maybe some mediocre Dandy's World gameplay will distract from the nasaliness of my voice. Yeah, that'll help with this video's quality. You know, I love only being able to breathe out of half my nose. Anyway. Today's video will be discussing a recurring issue in the community that I believe is important to call out and address. I will be discussing many different creators in this video, some of which I don't really know much about, some of which I heavily dislike the content of, some of which I feel generally positively about, and some I'm even friends with. Regardless of who these people are, critiquing certain creators is important even if I'm friends with them or view them generally positively. This helps to show an unbiased point of view and that I'm not afraid to criticize my friends or people I enjoy the content of. Anyway, enough vagueness, let's get into what this issue actually is. The unseriousness that topics such as abuse and predation are treated in the community, specifically within titles and thumbnails. Today I won't be going into any of the actual videos themselves because at that point I'd just be covering dozens of videos and that just does not sound fun or worth my time. Also, the videos themselves isn't the point of this video, it's the advertising of these videos that I am criticizing. I want to let you all know that by me criticizing the thumbnails and titles, I am not trying to tell you what to think of the video itself. I haven't watched the majority of the videos I'm discussing because the actual content of the video isn't the point. Even if the video itself is good, that doesn't mean I can't criticize the thumbnail and title for being insensitive. These thumbnails and titles are bad regardless of context, and every video that I am covering will be linked in the description for you all to watch and make your own opinions of the content of, because again, that is not what we're going to be discussing today. I'm going to start by showing you some examples of videos I believe fall under this category and explaining why I believe so. First, let's talk about a creator named Blackishhh, whose video, How Not to Be a Pedophile, illustrates this issue perfectly. The title is something to be sure. Is there a correct way to be a pedophile? I think best case scenario, you aren't a pedophile, but whatever. Anyway, the thumbnail. The infamous black box over the eyes. I fucking hate it. I regrettably did it once unironically years ago and never again, because what the fuck kind of edgelord shit even is this? Minors. We're talking about pedophilia, not some edgy anime character with bloodlust. Who started this trend? How do people do this genuinely thinking it's a good and tasteful thumbnail about predation? Yeah, what I'll call emo black box syndrome is going to be a huge theme in this video. An honorable mention from this same creator is The Worst Lolicon Defender. The title is whatever, but the thumbnail is where we have an issue. Racist, lolicon, black. Okay. I assume they mean that the fact that this person is both racist and black is shocking and confusing, but the way this person is trying to convey that is making it sound like being black in general is something that is shocking or weird in some way. I know this video isn't about abuse or predation, at least from the title and thumbnail, but considering the fact they're making a video about a lolicon defender, they probably view lolicon as on the same level as actual pedophilia, which if they do, regardless of my personal opinion on the topic, means this is even more poorly executed. Another huge theme in this video will be people shoving unrelated traits into a thumbnail and title that aren't actually related to the supposed bad actions. This is very common in videos about lol cows. A lolcow is essentially an online creator that is milked for laughs. The most infamous lolcow is Chris Chan, who was repeatedly harassed and is still talked about in online communities to this day, despite him being far from relevant. It's common for lolcows to do horrendous things, which is why a lot of commentators talk about them, but the way a lot of them do so is leaning less into their bad actions and more into their undesirable traits, such as weight, undesirable hobbies, harmless fetishes, etc. To see some examples of this, let's talk about a person named Bludspeth. The first video I'll be discussing from them is YouTube's Worst Predator, Glitter Pop. The title is whatever, but I do personally dislike when people use titles like YouTube's Worst Predator, because it's just overly clickbaity. All predators are bad. Why is there like a ranking? A lot of these creators also reuse that title a billion times for a billion different predators, which is not only clickbaity but insanely uncreative. Imagine every time I made a video on someone's video on me, I named the video the worst video on me ever, and I kept doing that over and over and over and over again. That would get so fucking boring. Anyway, the thumbnail. Pedo-furry. What the fuck does this person's hobby have to do with being a pedophile? When people do this, it makes me think they're trying to paint the whole community they're in as predatory, because there is literally no other reason to mention that. Furries are also common lolcows because being a furry is considered undesirable to people who spend their time actually caring about lolcows. Why? I don't fucking know. These people just hate fun. The piss-drinking lolcow predator responds to me. There is only one word in this title that is important. Predator. Guys, look, they drink piss. That's gross. You wanna know what's even more gross? Being a child predator. Why is that not the focus? These titles are nothing but shock value, and it's not working. It's just making me think that this person has a lack of priorities. Nova Online exposed again for talking to minors in new Discord server. The title is whatever, I guess, but the thumbnail says, pedo? Fat? This person also has dozens of other videos on this one person, and basically all of them have some mention of her weight in the title and or thumbnail. This person could be 10,000 pounds for all I care. What I do care about is whether or not they're a predator. Clearly Bludspeth doesn't, because all he cares about is how much fat is on this random person's body. This is weirder than that one guy's piss fetish. Speaking of which, here's the first video on that guy with the piss fetish. The piss-drinking lolcow predator. Declan Francisco Igia? The thumbnail says, I like pee, ... and kids. Oh yeah, because water sports is just as bad as wanting to molest kids. Yup, that's totally how that works. I mean this so genuinely when I say I could not give less of a shit what questionable fluids this individual ingests. You could not pay me to care, so how the fuck does Bludspeth care for free? I could talk about this guy's videos for hours, but let's move on to the Leaping Lemur. This person has their own video on this Nova Online person called The Full Story of Nova Online, The Diaper Diddler, lolcow compilation. This is a great segue to my next point, which is the use of these interesting terms to describe pedophilia. Kid diddler is a very common one used on YouTube. Yeah, no, let's just stick with child molester. There's also Johnny Elbows. The TikTok PDF file is back. Pedo alert. Lolcow update. There are 4 main issues with this title, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds to try and guess what these are. 3, 2, 1, go. Issue number 1, the use of the term PDF file. This is a TikTok-friendly code word for pedophile that has no place on YouTube because there are many better ways to censor the word that doesn't come off as insensitive or like you're treating the topic of pedophilia as a joke. You can say P3DO file or P*DO file, which funnily enough, Lemur does here in this same title, and that's the second issue, not simply because he used it, but because it shows how absolutely fucking useless the term PDF file is in this same title. If you can say pedo with an asterisk, then do that consistently. The third issue is pedo alert. What the fuck? XD? Pedo alert? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The last issue is the lolcow update. You all calling people lolcows are sheeple, I swear. Another commentator who's guilty of lolcow milking is the infamous Turkey Tom. One video in particular that caught my eye was the elderly lolcow who should be in jail, Tommy Tudor. The thumbnail reads, oldest lolcow, homeless hippie, eats garbage, zoophile, actual pedo. Okay, so he's old and homeless and he eats garbage. Cool. I literally could not care less. Also, what do you mean by actual pedo? Is he not an actual zoophile? Is he like metaphorically a zoophile? We come back to the topic of emo black box syndrome with another Turkey Tom video called Roman Polanski, decorated director to disgraced degenerate. What does putting the black box over this person's eyes achieve? Literally nothing except making this whole situation look like a joke. It's so unserious. Let's keep talking about emo black box syndrome. One commentator who is pretty guilty of this is Soph The Neko, even down to her most recent video. I do enjoy her content and I'm actually friends with her, but her commentary thumbnails have always been a bit of a pet peeve of mine for multiple reasons. The degeneracy of Dan / Cheeseman Entertainment / Court of Cinema Sins. A subtle yet still noticeable case of emo black box syndrome. Another issue in a lot of Soph's thumbnails, and in a lot of art commentators' thumbnails in general, is that they draw them themselves. No, that's not the issue on its own. She and a lot of others have a habit of drawing these pedophiles, whether it's their self-sonas or their actual real-life appearance, looking all scared or sad or angry in some way, which I assume is supposed to be their reaction to the drama or the people calling them out, or the video itself. This kind of feels insensitive. Drawing predators is kind of odd as it is, but the way they're drawn feels like it's not really being taken seriously, like it's a me versus them drama and not spreading awareness of a pedophile's actions. And of course, as someone who watches most of her videos, she does take these situations seriously in these videos, but her thumbnails don't really reflect that sometimes. Like, look at this one. This is CityBear03, a predator, cowering in fear because she's being called out for predation. The title doesn't help either. It feels more like an ad hominem attack than anything else. More like a harassment campaign instead of, like, calling someone out for being a pedophile, and you really don't want your video to look like that. Another example of black box syndrome, and another, and another, and another. I think you get my point. Soph's titles and thumbnails, especially titles, are nowhere as bad as some others, but I do think it's still worth noting. On the topic of people I don't hate, Graceful. I'd say me and Graceful are on okay terms. But that doesn't mean her titles and thumbnails aren't actual dookie sometimes. YouTube's biggest furry music predator exposed again, Glitter Pop. what in the ever-loving tuna is a furry music predator? And then the thumbnail is Glitter Pop and some other guy in handcuffs looking upset and flabbergasted. This totally looks like it's being taken seriously. Here's another one called TikToker Fails to Downplay Bathroom Selfie Drama, Lily Tino. And this thumbnail says, trans, creep, cringe. Graceful, I don't know how to tell you this, but you are also trans. What the fuck are you doing? Furry lolicon predator tried getting with me, Mr. Magistral Malik. Furry and lolicon could have been entirely removed from this thumbnail and title and it would have made it 100% better. Hell, even if you're hellbent on including the lolicon part, we can both agree that whether someone wears an animal suit or not does not actually matter in a predation situation. The last person I want to bring up is Shark Hunter. You know him, you love him, but I'm too lazy to go into and discuss every individual video, so I'm just gonna flash some examples on screen and hope you get the point. So, after all these examples, you may be wondering, why does this matter? Who cares if the thumbnails are bad and the titles are bad if the video is good quality? Well, a thumbnail and title is essentially an advertisement for your video, and to really drive home how much advertising can affect the view of an actual product, I want to show you guys a few clips from an old Saberspark video about the movie Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarves.
The drama, as I said, went down in 2017, and there was a poster for it that was on display at the Cannes Movie Festival. It said, "What if Snow White wasn't beautiful?" And it shows a skinny character next to a girl who is overweight. So it heavily implied that it was saying, if you're fat, you're ugly. And yeah, the internet wasn't very happy about this. It saw the poster as insulting, that it was fat shaming. But that was 3 years ago, and was like the last I heard of it until about a month ago. I got an email, somebody said, hey, this movie is out, you should see it. So I did. I wanted to see what the actual movie said. Is it insulting? Does the plot reflect the poster, or was that only a mistake? This was like the premiere film for Locus, a big step into the world spotlight to say, hey, we can make animated cinematic movies, check it out. They just had the unfortunate luck of having awful marketing. Because the movie was planned, I believe, to be released in 2017, but when this poster was revealed to promote the movie, it was a disaster. Like, the internet turned on this film. They were saying, this is body shaming, this is fat shaming, you're being cruel to people who are overweight by calling them ugly. It is a pretty insulting poster, so that's probably not for the best. And the studio Locus and the folks who were the distributors behind it, called Fine Cut, they were both like, yo, we messed up. We apologize. That is not the message of our movie. Even the main voice actress for this film was like, yeah, this was a mistake for the marketing. I swear to you, this movie is so much more than that. It's not trying to be insulting. This was just really bad marketing. To which, at some point, someone who was in charge had to have signed off to approve the marketing. So there is no doubt here. Somebody messed up and they paid the price for it. When I was talking about this movie on Twitter, a lot of folks in the comments were like, oh yeah, that movie, the one that was fat shaming. And I'm like, well, that's a bummer, because the movie itself, which I've watched by now, of course, is like the complete opposite with its message.
The point is, advertising matters. That's why advertising exists in the first place. If you have shitty, inaccurate, or even bigoted advertising for your video, good or not, will be viewed in that light. You do not want the legacy of your channel to be, I make videos calling people fat and treating pedophilia like a joke, so don't advertise your videos like that. Plain and simple. Advertise what you want people to think about the actual product. If your video is a serious discussion about the allegations of someone sexually abusing children, then your thumbnail and title should reflect the seriousness of that situation and make you look like you are credible and able to actually speak on these issues because you actually know what you're talking about and you know how to treat these situations seriously and with the tastefulness that they deserve, not only for viewers but for the victims of these unfortunate scenarios. To go into the specific aspects to explain why these are bad and harmful to your video and the commentary community in general, Putting black boxes over people's eyes in your thumbnail makes your video look edgy, and edgy is not a descriptor you want about a video about child predation. You want your video to be serious, not edgy. There is a difference. Using words like furry, fat, trans, etc. in your title about a child predator does many things to harm the credibility of your video. 1. It is just blatantly an ad hominem, and having a logical fallacy in your fucking title or thumbnail looks absolutely awful for your credibility. 2. It's painting these communities as being inherently predatory, because why else would you mention it? 3. It's just rude. It's rude towards these communities who have literally done nothing to you. It's not funny. Calling people lolcows in these videos is also bad for a number of reasons. 1. You are literally admitting to milking them for content. That's what a lolcow is. 2. It distracts from the actual point of the video, which is the fact that they're a predator. Wow, they're cringe because they're fat and ugly. Haha, so interesting. 3. It just makes you look like someone who's following the crowd instead of having your own thoughts and opinions. Like I said, the word lolcow reeks of sheeple energy. Everyone else hates them, so I should hate them too. But MG, I don't hate them because everyone else hates them. I hate them because they're a predator. Exactly. So that's what you should be focusing on. Also, using the word to describe people makes you sound like you haven't showered since George Washington was president and piss in 2-liter Sprite bottles because you're too busy sending soy jack memes to people on 4chan to get up and use the bathroom, but that's besides the point. Anyway, yeah, let's leave this lolcow thing in 2025 when we hit the new year. Pretty please? Also, the whole drawing pedophiles looking all sad and angry thing is bad in my opinion because, well, it makes it all feel less serious. It almost feels comedic a lot of the time. It shouldn't be. It's about a real child groomer. But MG, how am I supposed to make my thumbnails and titles for predator callouts then? Well, predator callouts aren't exactly my neck of the woods, but I'll give you my personal tips. 1. Keep titles simple and straight to the point. Don't mix in random unrelated traits that don't matter. Your title should contain the most important aspects of the video. It shouldn't be too vague, but also not too specific. I would personally recommend doing something like discussing the John Doe predator allegations, or John Doe has been outed as a child groomer. Don't dance around the topic with words like PDF file or kid diddler. If you're worried about YouTube removing or demonetizing your video, just use asterisks or numbers. If you're still worried, maybe you shouldn't be making videos about these topics in the first place. 2. Avoid using the word lolcow like the plague. Lolcow literally means a person you milk for comedic purposes. I can't think of a more insensitive term to use against people who groom children. 3. Don't edgyify the person you're calling out. Avoid using the black box thing. This isn't a Gotcha Life mini-movie, this is a pedophile. Also, don't draw the abuser looking sad or angry or scared. It feels more like portraying them as a fictional character and less as a real person who did something horrible. Mocking them in your thumbnail by drawing them in this way just looks unserious. Actually, I would avoid drawing them altogether. The last thing you want to do is give a pedophile free fan art. I would recommend using an already existing drawing or photo of them. Also, don't intentionally find the most unflattering photo imaginable to use and then put a bunch of weird, ugly-looking filters on it. Then you're just mocking their appearance, which also distracts from the whole predator thing. Just find a regular-ass photo or drawing of them, and use that if you want to use a picture that represents them. Please just be normal. 4. Avoid using buzzwords like exposed or guilty in the thumbnail. It, again, just makes the video look like a joke. Personally, if I were making a video calling out a predator, I would do something like this on screen. I love doing comedic thumbnails for my videos, using puns, running jokes from the video itself, and in some cases I'll even make running thumbnail gags that span upon all my videos on an individual. But sometimes, like when discussing child predators, you have to sacrifice funny haha jokes for tastefulness and respect. Being a victim of child predation online is a horrible experience. Let's not make it worse for them by treating the abusers as nothing but a ha 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 EDP Diddy Drake meme. This whole situation kind of reminds me of my Sav Never Learns video, where Sav repeatedly treated a situation she believed was about a child predator as a joke, including many insensitive jokes like rambling on about how she was excited to be in his video, and even making random, unnecessary jokes about her genitalia. This is a very similar ballpark. I'm not saying that you aren't allowed to have any humor at all in a video about a child predator, but that humor should be tasteful and not treating the topic or the person being discussed as a joke. This includes thumbnails and titles. The video should be advertised as a serious call-out, not a lol cow update video, whatever that means. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I personally think it's very strange how these kinds of titles and thumbnails have become so normalized in the commentary community. I mean, I really don't see anyone complaining about it, despite the fact that it is so incredibly common and obvious. I really don't know if people are just pretending it doesn't exist so they don't have to actually talk about it, or if people just accept it as an okay and normal part of the community. And I really do think that the thumbnails that go really hard on the fat, ugly, trans lolcow thing, they're just being weird. That's just weird. It's weird, and it's transphobic, and it's just rude to these communities who haven't done anything to you. I genuinely don't understand how people have, like, collectively decided this is an okay way to advertise your video. If you don't want to heed my advice to how you should make your titles and thumbnails, be my guest. But at the very least, I hope this video got you thinking a little more about the topic, because really, that's the least I can ask for a lot of my commentary videos, to get people thinking. Well, I'm gonna go take a nap and take some Dayquil. Goodbye.